So, lesser known triggers, symptoms, and behaviours of narcolepsy. Like usual, I was struggling with my excessive daytime sleepiness and felt a sleep attack coming on. And it's the worst timing, but it was relevant, so it got my mind going down a rabbit hole of the triggers for some of the symptoms with narcolepsy that aren't commonly spoken about, aren't known about, purely because of awareness. And yeah, some of the behaviours that we exhibit that really only come to head when you have lived with it for a while after diagnosis and you've been able to use your awareness to notice these things. So I thought I'd make this video. Some of the triggers for sleep attacks is very interesting. I know when I first got diagnosed, my only focus was on the really profound symptoms, which were, falling asleep and sleep attacks. I wasn't really focused on what causes them. If there were any other causes, I thought it was just always random. But I've later come to find that there are triggers as well, from seeing other people report about it in the narcolepsy forums and from paying close attention to sort of how they apply in my life as well. So one really relatable one for me is that I'm aware of now is sitting down for too long can be a trigger for a sleep attack. I wasn't aware of that, when I first got diagnosed. It was really poignant to me today because I was getting to the later part of my day when my sodium oxybate, that usually gives me a few hours of wakefulness during the day, was starting to wear off, and I went to go into a coffee shop to get some reading done, and I found myself reaching for my walking stick, and I had to take a moment and ask myself, why are you reaching for your walking stick? You're awake enough right now. And then I realized out of habit that I grabbed this because sitting down to read can be a trigger for my sleep attack. So subconsciously I knew I would need this when I was finished reading because I would be too tired to walk when I got up. And a prime example of this happening to me over my life before I got diagnosed was in a lot of my jobs, I would decline to take my lunch breaks. It's like a part of me knew that if I sat down for too long for that break, it would be so difficult, pretty much impossible for me to get up again and get back into work. So I had a little chuckle to myself, that was a trigger for me, and it's something I live with that I am really prepared for now. I always have my walking stick. So I thought that was a really good one to start. Other triggers I've found for sleep attacks or even sleepiness is stress. Stress can do it. Anxiety. All of those things can be a trigger for your sleepiness and your sleep attacks. That's something I didn't consider either. I just thought, it was a random thing that just happened sometimes. I didn't know that there could be triggers for that. But again, I've noticed if I've had to go shopping and I've been stressed, really anxious, it not only will trigger a sleep attack, but also a cataplexy attack, because I have narcolepsy type 1, where you get paralysis of the muscles in your body in reaction to having strong emotion. So yeah, those types of things are definitely triggers, you know. Another one for me that's really relatable is if I am really sleepy and I'm unable to have a proper, in-depth, coherent conversation with someone, and someone has cornered me and they've started talking to me. A symptom of that is me actually having an emotional outburst because my brain just can't compute. And that was another thing I didn't know was narcolepsy related or a trigger. These things just aren't talked about. So that's that's one that I remedy by keeping myself in my room, especially if my sleep attack is pretty bad, because the worst thing is being in a noisy room where people are trying to talk to you, lots of things are going on, while your brain is having a meltdown and you are really irritable. You can't contribute anything of sense to the conversation, and you know there's bright lights, you know, in your eyes, and your brain's telling you want to sleep. It's so overwhelming. So yeah, I know for a long time I developed automatic responses in my brain to questions someone might ask me for those moments where I couldn't escape, but I also couldn't have an emotional outburst. I would just go into my brain where those automatic responses were, and that pretty much would answer any questions that were coming my way without me having to think about it. But that's really tiresome. So I give myself, what would the word be? I guess I try not to be in those situations. So yeah, once my sleep attacks start, they just keep coming over and over again. So I make sure I'm safe in my room. And another thing is, because we just talked about triggers for not only sleepiness, sleep attacks, and cataplexy, a big one for me is being in that situation I just mentioned, and the stress of that causing cataplexy. And that can lead me to be in unsafe situations, especially if I'm not in a safe, quiet place like my room. If I'm out, you know, where there's a tiled floor or a hard surface and I am unable to break my fall, you know, all of those overwhelming factors causing me stress and anxiety, like lights, sound, conversations, can cause my cataplexy, cause me to fall and hurt myself. So it's always a great place for me, if I can get to it, is to be in my room. And that means being in my room a lot, and a lot of people not understanding why I'm in my room, you know. I'm trying to manage my symptoms, and I'm trying to keep myself safe, and also trying to keep myself from having an emotional outburst because my brain is just not functioning properly and it's overwhelmed. So yeah, I absolutely love this thing. This has helped me manage a lot of my triggers and the symptoms that have been associated with these triggers. I absolutely love this thing. Once I got over the shame and the embarrassment of having to have a walking stick on me, I have this thing with me everywhere, and I do not care what people think. It makes it a lot easier for me to get around if I've sat down for too long and triggered a sleep attack. It also indicates to people that can't see on the outside that there is something wrong with me, so it makes me feel a lot better when I do have a cataplexy attack, because you know, people will actually notice the walking stick, notice there might be something wrong with him, and they look for this, and then they can see the explanation on the back. So I can't speak any higher and of any more importance that it is to have something like this if you don't have a person around, a support person around. So yeah, I think that was it. I think that was really all I had for today. I'm sure more will come up. So yeah, stay tuned.